Yeah, I'd assume most people, and I know I kind of said this last week, but I think most people, and you're right, January's been nuts the last couple of years. It's kind of been the hottest month from what I've seen. But I think this year we will see things differ. Now, no guarantee of that, but I think people are going to be at least conscious, much more conscious of their spending in 2023. And I think that will, if people are kind of teeter-tottering, that wait and see mentality will probably expand from, let's wait and see 6 months to let's wait till maybe 2024 and see where things sit.
You're listening to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast with your hosts, Paul Stevenson, David Warren, and Greg Campbell. Let's see what's going on in the world of real estate today.
Yeah. Here we are. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong screen, and we are back. The Ottawa Real Estate Podcast. It must be Monday. Welcome. We are here. Yeah, my name is Paul Stevenson. I am a mortgage agent, and I'm joined with David Warren, also a mortgage agent. And Greg Campbell is a managing director and a realtor at the agency Ottawa. And we're back. It's almost December. The world has gone mad. The real estate market is staying mad. And I just wanted to let everyone know that we're heading into the holiday season, and let's spread some cheer.
Yes, let's do that.
Hooray. How was the weekend? Hooray. How's everyone doing?
Weekend was good. I actually worked all weekend. I showed homes all weekend.
And how many did you show?
I showed 12.
Wow.
Okay. 12.
That's active.
And in those showings, I worked with 4 different sets of buyers. So that was very interesting to see the change out of nowhere. Suddenly everyone was like, let's go out this weekend. I haven't had that in months. And, with a lot of people just sitting on the fence, and now all of a sudden everyone's like, okay. So I think a lot of people are trying to get into something before Christmas, and with the prices where they're at now, I don't blame them at all.
Yeah, I agree.
Were they people that were sitting on the sidelines for a while, or they knew?
One was new, that I'd been waiting for a pre-approval. They had some stuff to get in order. And another was clients I've been working with slowly. 2 of them were clients I've been working with slowly. And actually another one, another set of clients was from the avid listeners to the podcast.
Hello to them.
Brooke and Bettina found us online, and it was love. They were amazing. And we were looking at rural, so I had Luca helping me with that a bit. He was out in Winchester and stuff, but anyways, it was cool to be out and see a lot of different styles of properties and where it's at in terms of pricing, and a lot of price reductions. Anyways, let's not just keep with that. Let's go into your weekend, David. Tell me about your weekend. How was it?
My weekend was good. I took it easy Friday, home, and then was out for my father-in-law's birthday on Saturday.
Nice.
So that was just got out for dinner. Got a sitter to look after the bebe.
Wow, that's a big move, eh? Sitters.
Yeah.
Well, especially when the sitters are the ones that you're out for dinner with. That's kind of
that's what I mean. It's an alternate. Yeah, exactly.
Well, usually we just bring them with us, but we figured.
You figured what? Why not let loose?
Why not?
Why not let loose tonight? And what'd Paul do there? The muted coughing guy. And went down the wrong tube, I think.
Tube. Oh wow!
He's struggling. I think I'm back
over there. Wow.
Struggling.
That was wild.
It was one of those ones where I felt it. I'm like, okay, don't cough yet. I actually had time to mute it first, and then died. What did I do this weekend? Friday, I hung out with my son. He came early. We watched the England game in the World Cup. It was great. And then Saturday, I don't know, guys. This is challenging. Saturday we had his soccer, and then my son had a hockey game. Oh, we had the event. Wow, we had an event for the Boys and Girls Club that I know I've talked about on the show. It was great.
That was Saturday. Yeah,
we have 5 of the kids from the actual Boys and Girls Club who have graduated from school, basically from the education fees through the mission, and they were actually there performing, which was pretty amazing. It was a good turnout. Probably had over 100 people there, which was awesome. Still kind of calculating total total fundraised, but it was a great event. One of the 5 is heading back Wednesday, and the other 4 are actually in the process of getting extensions on their visas for work visas. So
that's awesome.
Pretty awesome. Yeah, pretty awesome. So it was a great weekend altogether. Food was great. It was from the African Grill on Clyde. If anyone has been or hasn't been, you should. It was delicious. Had some goat.
Haven't been, but have been wanting to try some new things. So it's good to know.
Yeah, it was really good. It was a good time. And then Sunday we relaxed, I think. My son
unfortunate worked. Canada loss.
Yeah, it was tough loss. Watch the game. But
heartbreaking. Good to have that day of rest, the Sabbath.
The Sabbath. Yeah. Sabbath. I always practice the Sabbath. Yeah, and listen to it. Yes. Yeah. So let's hop into it, Greg. You got some stats.
I got some stats. I'm on top of this now with my little my slides and just.
That's what people come for. That's what they're here for.
What they come for. There was actually a gentleman. The name escapes me now, but he emailed me asking for the slides. He's gathering data on Ottawa real estate, and he just asked if he could have that. So yeah, I'm going to send him these as well. I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, I know a podcast.
Court case against Greg Campbell. Yeah, wrong stats, wrong information. Who is this guy? So let's get into this. So I did Orleans, Barhaven last week, Orleans this week. Next week I'll do Canada. So crazy, guys. This is just astonishing. Monthly stats. So this is 4 weeks ending November 28th today. So Orleans detached homes right now, 91 active, averaging 52 days on market at a sales price at a list price of $825,000. 11 conditionally sold, 96 days on market average at a conditional sales price of $800,000. Sold, 35 sold in the last 4 weeks, averaging 30 days on market at an average price of $677,000. So that's crazy. And now, to be clear, I removed the really low stuff, like the mobile homes out here in Orleans in one location. Yeah. And I also took out a couple like over $2 million homes. So I left it, but I did leave it between like 500 and $1.5 million, I think it was. And the average price is 677. So that still though, that's low, man. And then, so the average in 2021, 67 sold at the same time, 11 days on market, averaging 735,000. Now, 735,000 makes more sense to me than the 677, but this is the numbers for the last 4 weeks. So that's what that is.
But look at the days on market, over 3 months for the conditionally sold.
I know,
123,000 over the ones that are only staying on for 30 days. So obviously there's further price adjustments there that need to happen. You'd think.
You'd think so. I mean, we'll see.
Tail flying through the screen.
We'll see. Let's get into the towns and semis. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is where most people shop. So 64 active, averaging 45 days on market, 600,000 is the average list price now. Conditionally sold, there's 8 conditionally sold, averaging 43 days on market at a price of 568,000. 9 sold at 37 days on market, 565,000 is the average sales price. And a year ago, same time, 60 sold, 7 days on market, 577 was the average price. So the ones that sold the last 4 weeks versus last year is below 12,000 below last year's sales price for towns and semis. Now, the ones at 600 that are active, I mean, what are those going to go for? 45 days on market. There's something I need to add to this. I also checked what townhomes were selling for in Orleans in March.
Uh-oh.
Does anyone want to guess what the average sales price was in March?
675.
690.
Oh.
Isn't that wild? I think that's the end of that. I don't need to say anything else about that. Let's get into condos here. Orleans condos, active, 12 active, averaging 35 days on market, 479,000 is the average price. Conditionally sold 0. Sold 8 in the last 4 weeks. 37 days on market, 392,000. Same time, 2021, 38 sold, 19 days on market, 387,000. So the condos, as we've discussed before, the condos are still around the same, if not higher. And that's pretty much across the city. condos have they've stayed steady, is what I'm trying to say. If I could speak.
Get it together, Greg.
Get it together, Greg. Now let's get into Orleans rentals. Now, not as big as Barhaven last week with 178 active or whatever that crazy number was. 86 active, 23 days on market average. 2,400 is the average list price for rentals right now. However, of the 36 rented, they were on the market for an average of 26 days, and the average price is 2,200. 2021, it's almost exactly the same. 37 rented, 25 days on market, 2,200. So there you go. For rentals, it's clear that is where they're at. You know, it's the same as last year.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And obviously the people listing are trying to demand slightly higher, obviously with costs going up, but goes to show you that those getting into them are either negotiating lower or people dropping their price in order to get them rented.
Well, that's the thing. It's like they have to make a decision of whether, if they're losing, they just have to make that decision of they're going to lose, decide how much they're going to lose. And
did you say price or did you say pants, David? When you said
pants,
Pants?
Price?
Pants?
Oh, yeah.
So anyways, yeah, that's it.
So this is basically unanimous across the city. Like I'm sure we'll look at another, demographic next week with your fantastic stats. But I mean,
I can't wait to see Canada.
Yeah, there's clearly some consistency here to the decreases.
There's a trend, and I personally feel that we're at around the bottom. I know there's talk about it being worse in the first quarter across Canada. I don't think Ottawa is going to be as affected any more than it is right now. I could be wrong, but I have this sense that we're good. And I have noticed that a lot of properties that haven't sold are coming off the market. The conversations I'm having are showing that sellers are more inclined that they still want to sell, but they're going to wait until spring. So those are going to come back on, whether at the same price or not. And with those ones coming off, the opportunities are here now for the ones that are available. And that's why I always say shopping between now and Christmas or January, second week of January is a great time. After that, the ones that aren't sold, who knows? Like maybe the inventory will come down depending on what happens this month. And then the ones that start coming up in January, when everybody has been waiting, the ones that have been on pause for now until early next year, maybe they'll come back. So I don't know, but the last few Januaries, just that's when the madness, it goes crazy.
They've been busy. Yeah.
And I don't think it's not going to be the same by any means as what it's been the last few years, but I still think that there's going to be more people out there. And now that they've kind of understood and accepted what's going on with the rates, the only thing that can change is that, the inflation factor, right? The cost of other goods, utilities and stuff. And that's kind of where I see it. If it's slower than usual, I think it's going to be based more on that than the actual market itself.
Yeah, I'd assume most people, and I know I kind of said this last week, but I think most people, and you're right, January's been nuts the last couple of years. It's kind of been the hottest month from what I've seen. But I think this year we will see things differ. Now, no guarantee of that, but I think people are going to be at least much more conscious of their spending in 2023. And I think that will, if people are kind of teeter-tottering, that wait and see mentality will probably expand from, let's wait and see 6 months to let's wait till maybe 2024 and see where things sit.
Yeah, right. And pre 5 years ago, the spring market would usually start like end of February. That would be considered the beginning of the spring market. But the last couple of years, by the second week of January, it's like everyone was waiting for that first listing in the neighborhood to come up. And once that sold, everybody just started putting their house on the market. And it was nuts because that first house would have like 30 offers on it. I did 2 of those over the last couple of years. I was the first house in a few neighborhoods where we were just like, okay, well, let's try it at this price. And then you're selling for like a silly amount. And then all of a sudden it gets flooded.
And this isn't just the last 2 years as well.
No, you're right.
In 2019, 2018, I remember those Januaries all being busy.
They
as
were
well.
busy. Yeah.
And I've sold properties in those at those periods of time. I would do flips, and would buy typically in December or between Christmas and New Year's, and and renovate and list in February. And it was always extremely busy, I always found, and even on just the mortgage side. But I was reading some numbers over the weekend saying that they're expecting volumes to still be the same or higher than 2019 through 2023 for transactional. So obviously, removing the last 2 years of 2020 and 2021 out of the equation, and kind of looking at those numbers from transactional volume, not
Right.
I don't mean like purchase prices or
Right.
mortgage values, but I thought that was an interesting stat. But one thing I wanted to kind of touch on was, and I just posted here when we're talking about the rentals in Ottawa, we've been seeing kind of in that Barhaven and Orleans, but across Canada, there was a stat this morning on CTV, or an article about across Canada monthly rents being up 15.4%, based on rentals.ca and what they're seeing, which I thought was an interesting indicator, because obviously rentals.ca is across Canada, so picking up all the different markets. But I mean, we haven't, clearly we haven't been seeing that too much. I mean, there's some, at least in these stats that we've been looking at the past few weeks, but I'm curious to see how that changes, especially with the impending rate increase. Paul, you mentioned that January, not expecting it to be as busy. Certainly, I think with any increase in prime, it's going to slow things down even further, because it diminishes people's qualifying and kind of sets us back a little bit further.
Yeah, I think what I'm liking about working with the buyers right now that I have is that, and I've mentioned this before, is that they've started at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? Whatever happened previously doesn't matter to them. They're just looking at what they have now, and they're going for it at that rate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's going to be more of that, more of those buyers coming to market. The ones that have been looking or watching for the last little while are way more hesitant, because now they've been through 2 different cycles here, and they're trying to figure out what they want to do. Dave, I have a quick question for you, if I may, just because you mentioned that you used to do flips. Now the new flipping tax that's coming forward. I was watching Nolan Matthias. I think I sent that to you guys. He's my favorite guy to watch on YouTube now about Canadian real estate. And he was saying that, it's kind of not really going to affect too much. I mean, or to think that as a whole, that's going to change the Canadian real estate economy, because flippers only account for 1.2% of total home sales in Canada every year. Right. So what do you think about that?
I think it's going to be useless. Like when I'd flip, it would be, I'd buy in a company, and I'm paying tax on that entire gain anyways. Right. I mean, so I've been, as doing flips as, for kind of as a business, if you will, you're paying taxes on that entire gain regardless. Like it's not, so that doesn't really change anything. And to your point, like 1.2% of properties being, are for flippers. Well, I think what's also kind of removed from that is that those properties that are being purchased are dilapidated pieces of crap. Like
exactly, that no one can live in anyways, that no one wants, and they make it so that people can live in them.
Yeah, or that the banks won't finance those either. I bought properties from hoarders, like animal, like feces and all that. Banks will not finance these. Like these aren't any that you can get conventional financing on. You have to go with private financing and have those relationships, and that's the only way of doing them. So these aren't properties that were ever in the regular pool of properties, for the regular buyers. So I don't think it's going to change anything. The people that do it as a business are going to continue doing it as a business. It's just going to be, they're just going to, change the way in which they operate from a tax perspective. That's all.
So is it optics, David? The headlines 100%. Optics.
It's crazy how I see it. I see flippers as a huge benefit to the real estate economy in Canada. Sure, they profit on it, But dude, that's their job. That's what they do. That they're working to do that job. They're not working 9 to 5 and then going and just flipping constantly. You know,
and nobody's getting hurt in the process.
The ones that are running it as a business are doing it as their job, and they're creating homes for people that otherwise wouldn't have homes, or taking homes, like you said, that are just falling apart and making them better to live in. So it blows my mind that there's so many people who think that, like, tax the flippers, that's going to help us all. Or the other thing that I was talking about, the 1%. The 1% vacancy tax. Like, are you kidding me? And I was telling you guys in the column, someone posted up saying, you know, letting everybody know about the vacancy tax, 1%. If your house is vacant for 12 months or whatever, you're going to be taxed like 1% of your total property tax. And my comment was, I go, so basically, like, anyone who's leaving their house vacant doesn't care about the extra percent. You know, if it was 10, 20%, maybe that would, you know, they'd be like, oh, okay, well, I don't really want to spend the extra, you know, grand or two. But then the bottom line is, like, how many millions of Canadian taxpayers' dollars went into the meetings and the planning to put this law into effect? I go, so basically all the tax money that is accrued through this 1% thing is not even going to pay back the money that the Canadian citizens paid to put the law,
to put it together.
That's how I see it anyways. I think it's ridiculous. And I can't believe that the Canadian people look at these things and they're like, oh, it's amazing. Like, the government is helping us. It's like, no, man, they're making it worse. You're just not reading it right.
So I think of a couple of these, like the vacancy tax and the flipping tax. A lot of these were brought up during the pandemic when housing was going crazy and looking for headline grabbers, things that don't have any impact really, but that will make it seem as though provincially, municipally, federally, those specific governments and those parties are focusing on, like, housing and really trying to make a difference, instead of actually addressing core underlying issues, just coming up with headline grabbers. And so, certainly to your point, I mean, this isn't going to change anything. You know, home values aren't significant enough in Ottawa. When you've got it in Vancouver, where properties are $20 million and the annual tax is, you know, $200,000, then yeah, that makes a little bit of a difference. But really, how much, you know, there's not properties that are sitting vacant in Ottawa for 12 months, 2 years.
Only the ones that haven't been renovated by flippers that are empty. Those are the ones that are sitting vacant.
Or waiting on their permits, as we've seen in many articles about permits and development, is how long that process takes. So I think that's really where the vacancies come by, is that people can't actually action building properties on that land or renovating that property because they're just having to wait for almost a year for any sort of development permits.
Dave, are you saying we need to build more homes faster?
Build better faster.
Because there's an act for that. Actually, in an article
build
this
better
morning,
faster now.
In an article this morning, City of Ottawa staff are warning the Ontario government's proposed changes to development charges could cost $60 million a year, leaving taxpayers on the hook to fund future growth in the capital. They have kind of a 4-step plan that they're going to do. This is under Bill 23, and it's called the Development Charges Act. So it says in in number 1, phase in of annual development charge collection. So it says Stevenson, not spelled the same way. It says the 5-year phase in of development charge rates in new bylaws will cost $26 million a year over $130 million, or $130 million over 5 years. Mandatory reductions in development charge revenues over 5 years will create an infrastructure funding gap between the collection of development charges and the financing of the required growth-related capital projects needed to proceed with new development. Number 2 says removal of affordable housing as an eligible service category. So we've been talking about affordable housing for years now. It says the city estimates removing affordable housing development charges will impact revenue by approximately $2 million per year, or $10 million over 10 years. According to the memo, stating the estimate is based on actual growth-related funding over the last 5 years. Number 3, removal of land as a recoverable cost for certain service categories. So it says under Bill 23, the cost to acquire land for specific growth-related service categories can be exempted as an eligible expense if prescribed. And number 4, development charge background studies. So the proposed amendment of no longer funding development charge background studies would create an annual pressure of $2 million a year. and exemptions of housing services from development charge recovery will result in a loss of $1 million in capital funding a year. So I'll be honest, when I saw the headline, I was thinking that they were going to be removing red tape, which is, I mean, some of these things will, but I mean, we've been talking about the issue with development right now is the cost to get it going, right? So it seems like they're saying some of that cost is going to be passed off to taxpayers, but at the end of the day, I mean, you know, if there's no homes to be built and everything keeps going, the cost of everything keeps going up. I mean, taxpayers are paying for it either way. All the money that's been created, as we said, over the last couple of years, like we're paying for it in the form of inflation and taxes and everything else. I saw recently that the carbon tax, the refunds they're giving people don't even cover the cost. I think they were saying the cost for Ontario, I think, was going to increase by a net $1,400 a year for the average Canadian, for the average Ontarian. And that's after the rebate. So, you know, you might get a rebate of $600, but you're paying $2,000. So you're still netting an increase of $1,400 a year. So the rebate is, again, optics sounds great. We're going to give everyone $600. I don't know the exact number, so don't quote me on that. We're going to give everyone X amount of hundreds of dollars, but net, you're still going to pay an extra $1,400. So it's kind of just like putting a Band-Aid on an open wound, you know?
So, you know, to your point about the development fees and all that, I mean, really, the citizens are paying, taxpayers are paying in the end of the day of higher prices on those new builds, or developers are incurring it for affordable housing or for rental units and passing that on to renters in the form of higher rents because they need higher revenues in order to cover the associated costs with that development. So they're paying it regardless. Also, if you speed up housing and you have more properties, then there's more property tax dollars as well, and more citizens able to live in the city and be able to pay additional taxes to infrastructure and everything. So kind of being short-sighted looking at that a 25% reduction in development fees is going to be this huge detrimental impact. Well, you know, something tells me there's probably also some of those services that don't need as many municipal workers working on them, you know, from an efficiency standpoint. So maybe they'll actually look at their budget in that regard too. But I don't think it's I think it's very short-sighted sticking a price tag on it for headlines again, when like build more units, you've got more property taxes, you've got more citizens being able to live here, paying income taxes here, paying, you know, for goods and services, contributing in many other factors, well more than that 60 million they're quoting to be, you know, that they'll be losing. That's, I mean, in my opinion.
I saw my first example of true affordable housing. I couldn't find the article. It was this group of companies in New York that got together and they bought this old hotel and they renovated it. And they actually moved in like people who live on like a super low fixed income. I think there were some veterans, homeless, and they charge them, I think it's only $100 a month. And it's a very small one room with like a little kitchenette and whatever, but it's $100 a month. And it's like true affordable housing for people that have next to nothing. And I was like, man, I'm like, there needs to be more of that. And I think, you know, based on where a lot of people who have been successful with private money and want to give back, I think we're going to see more of that. And it's just going to basically, you know, point to our government saying like, this is what you guys should be doing. This is where our money should be going to help the people that are truly vulnerable and actually need help, but they're not doing it because, as we know, what affordable housing looks like in Canada, it's not that. And they're not doing anything like that. So if I find that article, I'll share it. I'll bring it in next week, but I thought it was awesome.
It'd be called neighborhood average housing.
Yeah,
neighborhood average.
Affordable.
Sure.
The NAH neighborhood affordable housing. Yeah. Yeah, I think that was a great summary. I just wanted to go back to the flipper tax. I just think something like that is such a victimless, I wouldn't say it's a crime, but I mean, to tax, like there's no victims in that whole thing. Like either you're the home buyer who's getting a brand new renovated home, you're the neighbor who owns a home who is getting your home value increased because of the, you know, update to that property. you're the investor themselves who's taking on all the risk to potentially make a small gain, and you're getting a new home put it back on the market that wasn't previously available. So I don't know who in that situation is losing, but to tax those people, as you said, like it just seems like it's completely about optics. I just don't see any advantage to dissuading people or making them feel less interested in upgrading our homes. We have a lot of homes in Ottawa that are 60, 80, 100 years old that are dilapidated. Like they need to be updated. So if you're trying to, make people less interested in updating those, like that to me is just a net negative gain, negative, whatever, a net loss.
To that point, Paul, this weekend when I was showing homes,
the double negatives,
I saw 2 homes that were that were flips, and they bought early this year. They put in, I think each was about 125, 150,000 in updates. Right now, can't sell them. Price reductions. They're losing based on their purchase price alone and what they invested in. Before commissions, they're already losing half of what they invested and how beautiful they made these properties. So that's another thing to consider. These guys are just like, they're going out there trying to make something nice, but they've accepted it. They're like, you know what? Market changed, whatever, we got to get out. So, I mean,
there's no guarantees. Like you can put in, if you have 200,000
and you're going to charge those guys an extra tax. Like,
yeah,
come on.
You're putting in 200,000 of your own money, like hard-earned money to try to update a property. And like I said, you're taking on all the risk. Like, you invest 200, you might get, let's say 300 out of it, but that 100,000 net gain is all risk. Like it stays on the market too long, the market shifts, rates go up, like all these things have to be factored in, and you're taking all of the risk to maybe have a small gain, like you said, Greg, or lose, right? And you're still getting basically looked at as the enemy somehow, or somehow a negative aspect to the whole economy or the market, which I think is very foolish. What do I know?
Short-sighted. Well,
what do I know?
Or mood boost.
I was going to say all these negatives. I think we need a boost to our mood.
So I do have some additional World Cup jokes, but I feel like they're almost too dad joke-ish. So I'm gonna go off the World Cup. Last week was enough. Turned me off completely.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so I got 4 today. Number 1, why did the fish blush? Because it saw the lake's bottom. Saw the bottom. Sandy bottom. Number 2, I was going to start a bourbon company, but I heard it's whiskey business.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that one. American Thanksgiving was this past week, so a little topical. I think I'm addicted to Thanksgiving leftovers. I may have to go cold turkey. Turkey sandwiches, one of my favorites. Leftover turkey sandwiches. Number 4, what do you call an apology written in dots and dashes? A remorse code. A remorse code.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul.
I like those.
Not bad.
Not bad.
I like those.
Better than the World Cup jokes. I'll tell you that.
Much better than last week's, for sure.
Well, gentlemen, what's the rest of the week look like?
For me, I don't know. I'm hoping I get some stuff done. Buyers are pretty active right now, so we'll see. I'll have more details on that next show.
Yeah, I have a few. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
No, go.
I was going to say I'm kind of in the same boat. I have a lot of existing clients that are closing in January. Some of them still looking for financing. There's been a few lenders that don't seem to have much of an appetite coming to the end of the year. I don't know if the budgets are dried up, they're running out of funds, but it's been challenging to get some approvals in some cases. So I'm kind of surprised by that. I thought, lenders would have some lenders are super aggressive and super have a massive appetite, getting approvals same day, and then other ones are taking weeks and turning them down. So it'll be an interesting market over this coming 6 months, I think, all around. But we'll be here. We'll be here to narrate the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Ups and
gentlemen.
You can always tune into the Chill Rep. All right, see you guys.
We'll be back next week. Deuces,
Ciao,
everyone. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. because we'd really like that.